I titled today's devotion, Five Sisters as Law Changers and Legacy Makers. We're on day 256. We're on September the 13th if you're following along on the calendar, and today's morning rinse is Numbers 24 through 27. And there are two featured verses. It's Numbers 27, 3 and 4. Our father died in the wilderness, yet he was not among the company of those who gathered themselves together against the Lord in the company of Korah. But he died in his own sin, and he had no sons. Why should the name of our father be withdrawn from among his family because he had no son? Give us a possession amongst our father's brothers. It may take only one act of courage to transform the legacy of your family and the legacy of even a nation. The case that Moses took before the Lord was a case brought to him by five sisters. I'm going to try and pronounce their names. Mala, Noah, Hogla, Milcah, and Tirzah. They're listed in chapter 27:1. And Moses had just completed a census of the men of Israel and all of their households. And this was in preparation to divide up the land of Canaan for their inheritance based on the size of each tribe. Well, according to the Hebrew law at the time, only sons had the right to inherit. And since these five sisters had no brothers and their father had died, the Hebrew law at the time did not allow them to receive any land. And so therefore, they basically had no place of inheritance. So they went and appealed this law, and they asked Moses to consider changing it. And these five women courageously used their voice, and their request allowed God not only to guide Moses in changing the laws of inheritance for situations like theirs, but changing the laws in situations beyond what they brought to Moses. Their bravery influenced the laws also affecting men with no children at all. So you can read that in 27:10. Their bravery also influenced the laws about men with no brothers to give their inheritance to, which was also found in chapter 27:10. Their bravery influenced the laws of even men with no children, brothers, or uncles. Well, these five women were influential in changing legacies, not just for their family, but for all families who did not have a direct lineage of sons to receive their inheritance. We have not because we ask not. Has God placed a burden on your heart that could potentially change the legacy of your family and of families in your world, in your city, in your state, wherever you are at, for not just this generation, but for generations to come if you only asked him? That is thinking really, really big. And a lot of times people do not want to get involved with politics, and they don't want to get involved with law changing, and they don't want to get involved with, contradictory situations or subject matters. But these women did. They appealed to Moses about a Hebrew law, and it changed not only their family, but a lot of families, because then situations like theirs, where they might not have had brothers or sisters or children or brothers or uncles, to pass their legacy on, or like a lineage would completely stop because of that. Their bravery helped a lot of people in this situation where they were trying to pass out and disperse the land that God had given. I don't know what kind of thought process you have, or if there are situations out there that you have question about, or feel like they need to be changed, or what have you. But I'm encouraging you to look around you and see if there's something that is affecting your family in a negative way. or somehow affecting your family in a way that could be changed, and be brave. Be like the five sisters, where, maybe something needs to be challenged, or maybe your voice needs to be heard in a ministry, or maybe your voice needs to be heard at your church, or, maybe, for example, I have a relative with a special needs child, and they have had to change churches several times because the church did not have a ministry that would help with that special needs child. And sometimes it's, God may have us move, but sometimes, maybe, just maybe, God would have you stand up and be brave so that your voice could be heard, and the dynamics of children's church could be changed so that, a family with a special needs child could stay at that church. That's just one example. I don't know what the Lord is putting on your heart to be brave about or have a voice about, but today's challenge to dig deeper is to be brave and ask God for something big. Ask Him for something specific today. Ask Him to show you something that you could do to help change the legacy and the footprint of where you are at in life, whether it's your family or whatever. I mean, are you supposed to appeal a law, or are you supposed to, be a voice for somebody within your church? You never know what kind of legacy you are going to change and really make for another family. And so as you're feeling, conversations about this and listening to this story, and how these five women, these five sisters who had no way of getting at all any inheritance for their family, they were able to appeal this to Moses, and then affect a whole lot of other people involved in not being in a situation where they would be able to inherit something or pass something, the land down. Whatever that may be, whatever you are feeling in your spirit, whatever ideas you may have, write them down and pull out your journal and have your evening reflection, and write down what conversation you had with God. What did you ask Him? Did you ask Him any questions about, something that's in your heart that you want to change and open people's minds, maybe, or, maybe you're attending a church and there's, a whole deaf family. Maybe it is to appeal to the pastor to bring in an interpreter. You never know what kind of heart change you and your voice will have by just merely going and appealing to the person in charge for something that you could be dynamically pivotal in changing. And so these five sisters became law changers and legacy makers. And I know that that is, for me and for you, we are all legacy changers, right? And so go ahead and fill out your journal and talk about that. And I look forward to hearing some of the things that might be going on in your spirit about this subject matter, and just some of the things that you might be thinking about and processing. And I hope that it inspired you to not be afraid to step out and be a voice for the voiceless, or be a voice for even your own family. And I look forward to hearing more about it. We just have a couple more days left in the book of Numbers. And so I look forward to finishing out another book and seeing how that Numbers has affected this. I mean, you look at today and we're talking about five sisters, and five, I grew up, being taught that five was symbolic of God's grace and power. And isn't that cool that He used these five sisters and gave them power and and courage to go to Moses and be law changers and legacy makers. So interestingly enough, tomorrow we're going to have another example of the number 5. So don't forget, you can get my book in the show notes, and be sure and share this podcast with your friends. Until tomorrow, keep rinsing, reflecting, and repeating.